Good afternoon, everyone. Last week we were out in Southern California for the media preview event for Knott's Scary Farm. This is the annual haunt event they do every single year at Knott's Berry Farm. This year they are celebrating its 50th anniversary, one of my favorite haunt events in the country, and let me tell you all about it. Knott's Scary Farm is home to 10 haunted houses, 4 of which are located over by Ghost Rider in an area of the park that is not normally open to guests. The first one over there was Waxworks, which is a haunted house themed after an evil wax museum. This one I thought was not overly scary, but very, very gory. One of the goriest houses at the event. And there's some scenes in here that I just love. Like, there's part of it where you're like just in a normal kind of wax museum, and there's a giant wax figure of George Washington crossing the Delaware River. There's a giant animatronic in there, which is a big theme with a lot of these Knott's haunted houses. Most of them have 1 or 2 giant puppets or giant animatronics. And as a guy that loves giant puppets and animatronics, big fan of that being in haunted houses. There's a really cool scene where people are getting attacked by bees, some neat tech in there. And then there's a big, giant, very elaborate scene towards the end where people are getting dumped into the wax. This one was a little upsetting, but it was pretty cool. My favorite haunted house at Knott's Scary Farm this year was The Depths. Now, this is something that starts off as kind of like a haunted coal mine kind of thing, which was just okay. But then you end up under the sea, under the water, and it gets really, really good. There's a really cool underwater scene where there's like all sorts of blacklight figures and lasers, makes it look like that's where the water is. Lots of actors in this scene. And also my favorite scene at anything I saw at Knott's Scary Farm, and there's this one giant scene where there's an octopus, this massive octopus is attacking a pirate ship, and then you actually go into the pirate ship that's getting attacked by the octopus, and the pirate ship is moving all around. There's also a great white shark and moray eels kind of puppet or animatronics in this one. Awesome, awesome haunted house. I believe it might be the last year for The Depths, but don't miss it if you're going to the event. It was awesome. Dark Entity was up next, and that is kind of like Alien if you didn't have the rights to Alien. You're in a spaceship getting attacked by aliens, pretty much is how this one looks. My favorite part about this one is kind of like an 80s movie robot animatronic, and he appears quite a few times throughout the house, and as again, a big fan of robots, that was pretty cool. But overall, this one was just okay for me. Bloodline 1842, didn't really know the theme of this one. Felt like a steampunk cult thing, maybe? I did have a kind of a cool rock soundtrack in the background of this one. And what I liked about this one is it's a bigger building, so there were some great 2-story sets. There's some cool scenes in a village, a really cool giant bar set. This haunted house does take full advantage of using that 2-story sets. There's bungee scares, stilt walkers, zip lines, so it's pretty neat. Chilling Chambers is the next house, and this is the anniversary house, which has all sorts of tributes to past Knott's Scary Farm houses. Now this one, I bet if you're going to the event for a long time, this might be your favorite house at the event. This year going was only my second year ever going to Knott's Scary Farm, so a lot of these kind of references and houses from the past, they were all kind of lost on me just because, I'm a relatively new guest to the park. Love the event, but I haven't been to a lot of them. Some of the environments you walk through include an asylum, a dollhouse, a clown kind of circus-y house with elephants who I believe poop on you is what's happening there, and a lot more. And then all throughout, there's little tombstones or signs with tributes to almost every house I think they've ever done. Origins, The Curse of Calico is up next, and this plays into the backstory of the Ghost Town Street Scare Zone and the Green Witch, who's kind of like the main icon of Knott's Scary Farm. And man, this had some of the best sets, I thought, out of any of houses at the event. Part of it feels like you're walking through an old West town, and there's just some cool stuff like, no, I haven't been going to Scary Farm for a while, but I have been going to Knott's Berry Farm for a while. There was a lot of nods to sort of like classic things in Knott's Berry Farm, especially in Ghost Town. So there's a giant scare actor done up as the Catawampus. You walk through the haunted shack, and there's a great, giant, epic ending scene with the witch. Located in the old Mystery Lodge area is the Grimoire. Now, this is something about a haunted book campers are reading, and then I guess you go into the stories of this haunt. And it was weird and long and very creative, very interesting haunted house. And there's like different things that are happening. Like at first you start out in more or less a black and white house, and then you end up in war with like guns and everything. That was really strange. Then there's a Thanksgiving scene where pretty much they're serving people for Thanksgiving. There's an evil garden where I got scared by a plant, and then some random monsters at the end. This one was an interesting house, a little odd. Located in the infield of Accelerator is Mesmer, which is an old-timey circus hypnotist. And man, this was an awesome, awesome haunted house. Probably my second favorite at the event. The audio throughout this haunted house is really interesting, as it's essentially a hypnotist person talking you through what you are seeing. So it's very different than most normal haunted houses, and made it a really cool one. And this haunted house, it was very trippy. Lots of different and inventive stuff in there. A lot of kind of like illusion-y things, But man, I like this haunted house a lot. There's a couple of big animatronics, including a giant one at the end. There's a room that the whole room moves back and forth. And man, there's just so much that happened in this haunted house. It's just hard for me to summarize, but it's fantastic, very creative. Got to do that one if you're going to the event. Another new haunted house this year is Cinema Slasher. And this is kind of like you're in a movie theater, and then you go through the screen and end up in a classic slasher movie, like something like a Michael Myers or a Jason, but they didn't want to pay for the license, I guess. There's a sorority part, a summer camp part, and kind of an industrial room part. Like you walk through into 3 different movies. I think my favorite part about this house was there's a great scene right in the beginning. Once you walk into the movie theater, you go past the concession stand, and the whole scene changes under blacklight. And that was just an awesome, awesome effect. There's also a scare actor in there at one point who is an evil projector. That was great. And one guy had a comically oversized chainsaw that hangs from the ceiling. Overall, not one of my favorite houses at the event. I believe Room 13 is also a new haunted house for this year, and this is an evil hotel in the 1920s, which blends in with the scare zone right outside of it. This one I felt like was not a super strong house. It was on a smaller scale, very much more compact, very much on one level. There were some solid scenes. There's a demon scare actor vomiting in the bathroom, and a really fun scene on a balcony that is under construction. Oh man, but there is one unsettling part where there's always like things hanging from the ceiling in haunted houses, and you kind of have to push your way through them. But this was rough because these were people that have been cut in half vertically, and you have to push through them to get out. Room 13, probably not my favorite house of the event. I think my biggest surprise at Knott's Scary Farm were the shows. There are 4 shows this year. I saw 2 of them, and that was some of the best things I did at the event. Starting off with the Hanging Uncanceled. This is a show they've done for years and years and years, where there's a lawman, and they pretty much just spoof pop culture for 20 minutes or so. It is back. It's in the Wagon Camp Theater, where the stunt show used to be, and this was a lot of fun. Oh man, I laughed so much. Poking fun at pop culture, poking fun at Disneyland down the road. Don't want to say too much about it. It is an adult show. They do use, adult words, so just be aware of that if you're going with little ones. Probably don't take your little ones to a haunt event. But man, the Hanging, a lot of fun. As was Music, Monsters, and Mayhem. This is in the big Charles Schultz or Walter Knott Theater, the big one, the big one that's in the back of the park over by the River Rapids and the bumper cars and all that. And this was kind of a tribute to Knott's Scary Farm past, all the different hosts that they've had there, from Elvira to the other ones. And it's a big song and dance musical show. Giant cast in here. A very, very adult show. To the point this might be the most adult show I have ever seen at a theme park. Very much an R-rated show here, but it's a blast. Oh my God, it's so good. And plus, the Knott's Scary Farm event, it's like 4 or 5 hours, and it's a lot of walking. And here you get to sit down for a long show. It was like a 50-minute show in the air conditioning, in a comfy seat, and laugh your butt off because the show was great. There were 2 more shows, La Magnifique Carnival du Grotesque, which is kind of like singing and dancing, but there's also circus acts. And then the 4th show I unfortunately didn't get to see, and that is Dr. Cleaver Returns, and that is in the Birdcage Theater. I will say, if you want to go see the Hanging show, definitely get there early. We were there on opening night, and if you were not there like a half an hour before showtime, the show was full and you couldn't get in. So I didn't get to see the Dr. Cleaver show because I walked over to see the Hanging, and I couldn't get in, and I'm like, oh man, I can't miss the Hanging, so I had to go to the last show of the night for the Hanging. There are 5 scare zones at Knott's Scary Farm this year, and of course, when you talk scare zones, you talk Scary Farm. You've got to start out with the Ghost Town Streets, and that's just pretty much Ghost Town. Tons of actors in there. There's lights, there's fog, and it just makes it a very spooky atmosphere. The Goring 20s was a really cool scare zone, and this was over by the big theater as well as the Room 13 house. And this scare zone really was awesome because they have like a live band that plays 1920 music, and then like the scare actors kind of dance along while they're trying to scare you. And this was really cool. That it is on the Times Guide. It will tell you when that band is going to perform. So if you're in the area, definitely worth a shot. Over by the boardwalk section of the park, you'll find Carnival, which is exactly what you think it's going to be. It is going to be clowns. The Forsaken Lake is in the lake by Silver Bullet. This one was kind of a nothing special scare zone. There is a 5th scare zone known as the Gauntlet, which is over in Camp Snoopy. And unfortunately, I didn't make it over there to that one. You can only see so much stuff at Knott's Scary Farm. The event is so slammed and so filled up with stuff. I just did not make it over there. And there we go. That'll do it for my time at Knott's Scary Farm this year. This is an insanely good event. I loved it. I was happy I got to go there for the 50th. Of course, all your adult rides at Knott's Scary Farm, they're all open. They do have a bunch of specialty food. Got to try some of them as part of the media event. There are raspberry beignets that are fantastic. Definitely check those out. Those are available right by the saloon at the churro stand. And they also have a whole bunch of great merchandise, as you can see here. They did a big Knott's Scary Farm legacy store and museum that is out in the marketplace section. You can also get there in the park from the over by the Waxworks Haunted House. But that was a very cool store, and the merchandise they sold this year at Scary Farm was really, really good as well. Just going to have that as the background as I'm wrapping things up. I think if you're thinking about going to Knott's Scary Farm, this is the year to do so. 4 shows, 3 new houses. It is just a spectacular event. And honestly, if you wanted to see everything, it's going to be very, very difficult. I think even with the Fast Pass, if you want to see all 4 shows, all 10 houses, it is a challenge to do so. But even if you don't see everything, I didn't see everything. I had an absolute blast. Now, Knott's Scary Farm, it's not an event I need to go back to every year. For one, it's on the other side of the country for me. And also, it's not like Halloween Horror Nights out here on the East Coast, where every year it's a brand new event. You know, their houses do come back year after year. Then they will update them and change them a little bit, but they do return every year. So I do think I like to get to Knott's Scary Farm, but maybe like once every 3 or 4 years. So most of the event is then new again. If you have any questions about Knott's Scary Farm, let me know in the comments section below. And thank you very much for watching this video.